Okay, first thing to say is if you're here for green manure information, please go to timestamp. All the bits and pieces in this vlog are going to be timestamped, listed underneath in chapters. I'm trying out something new here where I'm going to include the specific information stuff into the vlogs. As if you look at the timeline bar at the bottom of the video, you'll see there's little gaps in it. They are the chapters, so they are breaking the video down into different things. That means that each chapter you'll be able to see, so whether I'm picking beans or having a cup of coffee or sorting things out, didn't mean to do that, sorry, or sorting things out in the polytunnel, that will all just be broken down underneath. But considering that the main title of this video is about the green manure, like I say, this timestamp, go to here or click the bit that says green manure underneath and it'll take you straight to that point in the video. Okay, let's see how that works out. But yeah, so it is a pretty grey Sunday morning here. Turns out Ruby has got an incredibly loud voice and she knows we've got mealyworms in here, or mealy grubs, and she just knows about it. Yesterday when I gave her the mealy grubs, she just jumped straight up on my lap and was eating them out of the tin. Rude, but also lovely. So I'll see if she does that again this morning. Hey Ruby? Yeah, so let's go and see if she repeats the leapy on kneeiness of yesterday. I've got my shaky tin. Let's go. How we doing, girlies? How you doing up there, lady? Look, she's already on the case. Right. What are we going to do? Are you coming up? Coming up here? Come on. Come on. Come on, chicken. Are you a chicken? Are you a chicken? Come on. There we go. Come on. Oh, bribed with mealyworms. Bribed. Have you been bribed into love? If you could see my face right now, it's pretty happy. Oh, it's a girly. It is a girly. Hey, the Rube. So yeah, that's progress, isn't it? Just got to work on the other two now. Coming up, girls? Right, so first thing to talk about this week is that on Tuesday, Mum and I went to Chelsea. It's a video. Hi. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we're actually post Chelsea at the moment. We're just recovering. We've been traipsing around all day long, and although it actually wasn't anywhere near as busy as it has been on previous years, still pretty busy, and it's quite difficult to record anything because every time you get your camera out to record something, a stranger's head goes in the way. So for anybody who doesn't know, Chelsea normally held in the spring, so in like the end of May sort of time, but this year obviously COVID, it was completely cancelled last year, and then this year it was delayed from May until now. So this is basically the first ever September Chelsea Flower Show. So did you think it was really different this year?
I did think it was different. Firstly, it was less crowded,
yeah,
which I actually quite liked.
Yeah.
I missed not having the cloakroom open because we would normally have a picnic on the grass.
That's true. I'm having crisps now because normally we'd take lunch and stash it in the cloakroom in a cold bag, you know, and then sit out in the grass, have a picnic, all the rest of it. Today there was no cloakroom, I guess COVID restrictions or whatever, which meant that we couldn't bring anything with us, so we're now recovering. So although we didn't record masses, I'll show you the bits and pieces that we did record, and this was something that was really nice. Throughout the whole of Chelsea there was a real focus on kind of bee friendly or pollinator friendly planting. That sort of thing has been increasing over the years, definitely. And there was a lot of this kind of naturalistic woodland planting that you do often find at Chelsea, but this is something you don't normally see. Look at that, bare soil. That is very unusual. Yeah, I've never seen bare earth on an edge like this at Chelsea before.
No, I haven't either, because that's one of the things it's known for. Chelsea gardeners don't show soil.
There is no Chelsea gardeners don't show soil unless it's part of the design and it's like an arid desert or something. Yeah.
There were none of those.
There were none of those this time, no. Tisk tisk. Anyway, this is the Queen's Canopy Garden, which is just like a little slice of woodland walk, which was quite lovely. So this was sort of the first thing that we saw, and we are going to head over there to the pavilion, see what's going on in there. So Chelsea's made up of a load of different show gardens, which are kind of these massive projects. They do little gardens as well, and then part of the main event is the huge pavilion in the middle, which is basically a tent with flowers underneath. And the pavilion is absolutely massive. Normally it's so jammed together and really, really crowded, and all the stands are really close together and there's masses of them. This year was so much quieter in there, not just the people, but like the number of stands. They had left masses of space between all the stands, which was really nice. Okay, we are in the Great Pavilion and I've just spotted some vegetables. So although you know I'm a bit of a vegetable obsessive, this is not really my style of vegetable show. I mean, there's some very impressive things in here, don't get me wrong. Although some things not so impressive. I mean, we all grow kohlrabi that looks like that. And, you know, fairly standard carrots and things. Beetroot. I mean, no, I have never grown a carrot or a parsnip that looks quite like that. Or indeed an onion that looks like that. Look at that. Or celery. Yeah, okay, so there are quite a few things here that is just way out of my league. But a lot of it, I mean, it's just vegetables in a nice pattern, isn't it? They're very nice. White aubergines. Yeah, this is like sort of vegetable chintz. But ooh, now this is much more up my strata. Gorgeous, gorgeous tomatoes, and ooh, blight resistant. This is Pennard's. Pennard's is one of my favourite seed companies. They are fantastic. They actually do the potato fair that I normally go to in Lambeth, and they just have the most wonderful selection of vegetable seeds and flower seeds as well, but veg is the main focus. And they've got these wonderful little cards and everything's sort of hand drawn, and all of their seed packets are got these little cartoons on them, and basically they've just got so many different varieties, and oh, it's just so exciting. When they're at the potato fair, it's just like 3 long tables full of trays like this, just full of things. And I've found some really fascinating stuff in the Pennard seeds. So this is where I found the Japanese black truffelli tomatoes, which are now one of my absolute favourites. Orange tiger aubergines I got from them, and the tree spinach. yeah, just basically an absolute treasure trove of varieties. This is quite fun too. So this is just basically showing off how beautiful beans are. We've been obviously picking a lot of our Borlottis and things at the moment, and just seeing them, they're such beautiful things, dried beans. They're just such beautiful things, and like the colour variation in them is just stunning. Like the 3 French beans that we're growing this year, they're all French beans. We've got one that's got a black seed, one that's got a white seed, and one that's got a red seed. And that's pretty beautiful. It's lovely to see them all just like this. It's like all in a huge selection. But it was quite nice because sometimes when you're in that pavilion, if you try and do it like in one hit, starting one end to the other, there's so many beautiful things in there, absolutely stunning, but there's so much of it that it just becomes really monotonous and you're just not appreciating what you're seeing. So normally we do it in like, you know, little bits. Not necessary this year.
No, although we did do it.
Although we did do it in 2 halves. So this is the M&G garden. We're back outside now, and the planting here is really lovely. It's got these pipes. It's supposed to be some sort of post-industrial parkland. I don't know if these pipes really shout post-industrial. It looks a bit more like a climbing frame, but still. What's lovely about this garden is the planting. So like I said, this is the first Chelsea in September, and I was hoping to see loads more kind of September flowers and seed heads and things that have gone over. But actually there hasn't been that much. Having said that, this garden's quite embraced it. It's got quite a lot of spent flowers and asters and echinacea and rudbeckia and quite a good selection of later summer flowers, which is lovely to see. I was expecting the gardens to embrace like the later plants, like the autumn feel and late summer feel, a lot more than they did. I was expecting to see loads more dahlias and like seed heads, even if it was, because if they've put the proposal in really early, the idea of keeping that planting but having the older plants, the seed pods and things left over would have been really nice.
But I mean, I love dahlias and gladioli, but these gardens weren't designed to have, the show gardens weren't designed to have any really strong, bold colours. They hadn't
embraced late summer, I don't think.
No, it could have been May. Actually.
It could have been May,
yes.
Which was a bit weird really. It could have been May. It wasn't that many years ago where they never used to have that much water in the gardens at Chelsea, but in the last couple of years, sorry Chris, in the last couple of years, like practically every garden has water in it. So obviously the last garden had that big water lily pond in it, and then you've got others like this. So it's basically, this is one of the tiny gardens, one of the little like artisan gardens, and it is basically all water. Like it's got a tiny bit of planting around the edge, but basically it's just a construction and water. I mean, to be fair, it's really hot today and I'd quite happily get in that water. Actually no, scrap that, I want to get in this water. This is the finished garden, so it's like a sauna and a plunge pool, and I can tell you, I'm so up for a plunge pool right now. It's really hot. Yeah, I could quite happily have that in my garden. And then obviously we were so tired by that we had to stop for refreshments. That's quite nice actually. Oh, and then there was your favourite garden, wasn't there?
Yes.
This one.
I like the story behind it.
This was one of the large show gardens, and it was really interesting. It was kind of representative of a city in China that had been unbelievably polluted, and they managed to solve it by introducing water and open space and parkland and trees into the city. They really made a massive difference, and now it's totally reversed and it's one of the least polluted cities in the whole of China, which I think is just a really lovely story. More water, as you can see, no garden is complete without it. A bit of salvia, there's a lot of marsh plants, really, really gorgeous. Yeah, big fan of this one. This is the epitome of a peaceful garden. So yeah, we had a really lovely day, and one of the best things about it, right at the very end. So do you remember, quite a while ago actually, I was talking about, on here, I was talking about a girl called Jem, who's a mother cooker. I was talking about her seasonal recipes and just basically like growing and cooking, which is all the good things. Yeah, I got to meet her in the flesh and I was chuffed about that. So Jem, if you're watching, Cheers. After today, so we're going to head home, and then after today we will be resuming normal allotment service. So we will see you back at the allotment tomorrow, I guess.
I guess it's tomorrow.
Yeah, anyway.
Cheers.
So that's Chelsea done for another year. Actually, it's only 6 months till the next Chelsea. Pretty much, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, 7 months. Anyway.
Cheers.
Cheers, chaps. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, we had a lovely time. Right, I've just put some water on to boil because we're about to have some lunch, but I'm not going to do noodles today. I'm just going to make some soup because we've got quite a lot of really nice veg to go in there. And also, actually, let me just show you what's happening in the polytunnel. I'm going to be doing a bit of clearing in here today. It's just got to the point now where the tomatoes aren't producing any more, and some of the plants in here are actually like over. So let me show you. So like this one, this is a Brad's Atomic grape, as all of its fruit are ready to come off now. So I'll harvest everything on there and chop that one down. This one on the other hand has still got a couple going, so I will leave it. This chap, yep, that's all finished. I'll take the whole lot of that. Not sure. This one's got loads still to come, so I'll leave that one. This one's still got loads more to come. This Brad's Atomic is also completely done, so I'll take all of those. But like I was saying, I'm going to make this soup today, and so I will take this one, which is the Japanese black. I'll take that one. And there's also one more on this plant here, so I will take those two. So I'll make my soup out of these two and a load of basil. Things are really coming on in here. You remember the bits and pieces that I planted. So the parsley's looking really good, as is the Thai basil. And look how good the chicory looks. They look fantastic. I'm gonna get some more stuff in here this afternoon. Actually, I've got quite a lot of work to do, but all after lunch. So like I said, no noodles today. Making a bit of a change with the soup. We've got cobra beans, fresh Borlotti beans, nardello peppers, sorrel, basil and hot lemon chilies. And the main soup base is made from those two Japanese black truffelli tomatoes that I picked earlier. Having a few bits like salt and also these little miniature soup penne pasta bits in the cupboard in the shed really makes a difference to being able to put a lunch together. So this is quite exciting. As you know, it was Mum's birthday last week and I got her a set of portable cutlery. But I loved it so much I had to get myself one as well. So we've now both got this little set and I think they are fantastic. Obviously, you really don't want to be using plastic cutlery these days, as in like throwaway plastic cutlery, not just like any plastic cutlery. The one, you know, the like bamboo ones and everything, I find them really difficult to eat with because they like stick to your mouth and not nice. So yeah, invested in a portable cutlery set and I'm well impressed with it. So inside this little tin is a fork, a spoon and a knife, and also the option for chopsticks, which is pretty handy for us because we obviously use chopsticks all the time with the noodles and things. Yeah, so this is the Outlery's first outing. I'm actually well impressed with them. Right girls, are you ready to talk green manure? Because I know you're fascinated by green manure, aren't you girlies? What are you doing? The term green manure is really broad term, which just means a crop which is grown not for itself but for its effect on either the soil or the crop that's grown in that patch after it. And they do a lot of different things. So they can make nutrients more available in the soil. So things that are already in the soil, it can make those nutrients more available for the next plant to be able to use. You've also got nitrogen fixers, where they actually take the nitrogen out of the air and fix them in the soil for the next plant to use. I'm sorry about the chicken, she's laid an egg and she's quite pleased with herself. So the other thing they can do is improve the actual structure of the soil itself. So that can be on both ends. If you've got really heavy compacted clay, some have really extensive, really strong root systems which will go down, penetrate that clay, break it all up and give it a much better structure that way. Or there's some other ones which will go the opposite way. So if you've got, will you be quiet? If you've got really thin soil, they can have quite, they can all, they tend to have really lush, low growth, and you can chop that down, use it as a mulch, or if you are a digging type person, you can dig that into the soil and that will add structure. Or you can, like I say, just chop it down and leave it on the top as a mulch. The other thing that they can do, and this is quite common across quite a lot of the green manures, is that they offer protection to the soil. So over the winter months when it's wet and windy and raining, it can really leach the nutrients out of the soil if you've just got bare soil. And so having a cover crop on there just to reduce the wear and tear on your soil over winter while it's bare, they can do that. And at the same time, they also suppress the weeds. So you, instead of using a black plastic or something that you would use to protect the soil over winter and stop weeds coming up, you could just use a green manure. The only thing it won't do that black plastic will do is that in the early spring, it will warm your soil up a bit faster if you use the black plastic. But I'm telling you, there are so many different types of green manure. It would be a whole video in itself to just list them all. But I'm just going to go through the ones that we're going to grow this year, and there's kind of two main ones and then like a mix. And the first one is Phacelia. And if you watch the vlogs, 2 weeks ago, you will have seen me sowing some Phacelia in the bed that's just to my side here. Let me show you how it's going because it's all come up. I mean, it was literally like a week ago I sowed this, and it always amazes me how quick they are to germinate. Look at them all, a little forest. So this is it. Phacelia is really good. You can sow it almost any time of the year. So sort of like spring, summer, autumn. We always do it in the autumn. We don't normally have enough bed space in either the spring or the summer. Having said that, it is only like 60 days to do its things. You've just got 2 months in the middle where you're not going to have anything in a bed. Stick some Phacelia down and it'll do its job really, really quickly. So Phacelia is a really like lush, feathery growth, and you just, for this packet, it's quite interesting in comparison because most of them come in the same sort of size packets and they do quite a different amount of square footage. This will do about 22 square meters, this packet, which is rather a lot. The plants themselves are, like I was saying, really feathery, lush foliage. They grow really quickly, so they suppress the weeds. But what you get from that really lush foliage is, whether you're a digger or a no digger, you either dig that foliage in and you get really good green matter in your soil, or chop it down and you get a really fantastic mulch, and it's just so quick. It's also got a really extensive root system, so it will really break up clay soil. We don't have a clay soil problem here, but we also don't rip it out. So if you are digging in, you'd be turning the whole lot over. We just cut it off at the base and then lay the mulch on top, and so leaving the roots in place underneath kind of improves how thin our soil is. So the other thing about Phacelia is that if you leave it, so the 60 days, you know, you just let it grow up, it's all feathery and lush, chop it down. But if you do leave it, you get these absolutely magnificent purple flowers. They're quite tall plants and the bees go mad for them. This stuff that I've sown here, we sowed it like, 2 weeks ago. That will grow up. Obviously it doesn't have a large rate of growth during the winter. It will just grow and it will sit there protecting the soil and getting ready to do its thing. And then in the spring when we chop it down, we won't chop all of it. We will leave some to flower. And what's really nice about them this time of year is when you leave some, in the spring they flower because they've been in there over winter. They flower really early, right in the patch when the bees are emerging, and there's not really that much flowering around for them. So it's a really fantastic like early flower for the bees. Okie dokie, so the second major one that we're doing this year is field beans. So field beans are just a type of broad bean, but they're just a mini one, a little tiny one. And they are nitrogen fixers. So whereas the Phacelia is going to grow loads and loads of lush growth and will just kind of chop that down. These grow like broad beans, you know, so they're very much individual plants. I'm going to sow them individually across the whole bed. And you will have heard me talk about these loads last year if you've been watching the vlog since then, because as we tried these for the first time last year and I was well impressed with them. It didn't go exactly to plan, but I was really impressed with them. So where we're going to be growing them is in the 3 beds that we're growing the brassicas in this coming year. Because they are nitrogen fixers, so nitrogen is something that really, well, all plants need it, but things that are like green veg basically, so all the brassicas, chard, spinach, that kind of thing, leafy greens love a bit of nitrogen. So we are just prepping these 3 beds. I'm not going to do the 2 at that end because they have still got things growing in them. They've got pumpkins and squash and that sort of thing. It's no hurry. One of the nice things about the field beans is that there's a less limited time that you can plant them for overwintering. So you've got anywhere from kind of September to the end of November where I am. I mean, if it gets really, really cold by the end of November, it's probably not going to work out so well. But you know how you can overwinter broad beans? It's exactly the same. So I'm going to sow these just directly into this bed. And we'll let them do their thing until spring. So the 3 beds that I'm putting them in are the 3 brassica beds for this coming year. We did exactly the same thing last year. The 3 beds that we've got our current brassicas in all had the field beans in last year, and I think it's made a massive difference. The brassicas are really, really lush this year, and I know from other allotment holders that they've found the same thing, that it makes a really big difference. So fingers crossed we get the same effect this year. So the third one that we're doing is a bit of a mixed bag, literally, and also it's kind of a combination between the Phacelia and the field beans. This seed mix is a mixture of Fiji peas and vetch and rye. So the Fiji pea and the vetch are both legumes, so they are nitrogen fixers like the field beans. But mixed in with that same set of seed is the rye. So rye provides that really fantastic coverage, and all of it will be chopped down and provide the green matter in the spring, just like the other 2 we're using. Interesting to note with this though, that if you're planning to direct sow into the bed after using rye, the rye itself releases a chemical that can inhibit germination. So planting out seedlings and plugs and small plants is absolutely fine, makes no difference, but you have to leave about a month between cutting it down and direct sowing things like spinach or carrots or something like that you would sow direct into the bed, because the rye releases this inhibiting chemical, so it won't germinate. That sounds like not such a great thing, but if you are putting that out and then you're going to be planting your plug plants in there, say in the early spring that you've started indoors, if you've got a lot of weed seeds in your soil, the chemical that the rye releases will inhibit the germination of the weeds as well, so you can plant straight through it and have less weeds. Obviously it doesn't last that long, so that effect will only last about a month after you've chopped the rye down into the bed, but still, as a bit of a bonus. So that's our green manure for this year, guys. Unfortunately, I'm doing this as a bit of a mime because we've got aeroplanes going over about 1 every 3 minutes at the moment, and you can't hear anything I'm saying. And we also have a bloke that's just up there who has decided that now is the time to strim, and he's got a petrol strimmer and it's pretty loud. Anyway, that can't be helped. You're just lucky you can't hear it. Next on my list is picking beans. We got the tail end of the French and the last of the Borlottis. So like I was saying, we're kind of coming to the end of the French beans now, and we're starting to kind of select some which we're going to leave for seed for next year. We haven't decided if we're going to dry any of these French beans yet to use as dry rather than just seed for next year. But what we have been doing is starting to freeze some of the beans. We've had so many this year, and we haven't always been that good at trying to keep stuff for winter. So this year we've really been making a bit of an effort with it. Morning. So you remember last week when I pulled all of what I think was the Musselburgh leeks out of the leek bed? Well, I'm just in the middle of processing them all. We have eaten quite a few of them, but there's more than we can eat in one week here, and I don't want them to go sad. So I'm just processing them. So last year I froze loads and loads of leeks, and I froze the bottom halves and the top halves separately. But what I made a mistake doing was when I was doing the top halves, I mean, I'm not going to do the top halves of these ones because they were a bit sad because they had all the rust on them. But last year the ones that I was saving had really beautiful tops. But I washed them all. And obviously when you're going to freeze something, you have to make sure it's really dry before you freeze it, otherwise it all blows and then it's just awful. And I wasn't careful enough. I did dry them and I thought I'd been, you know, pretty good about it, but I hadn't, and so they weren't really usable. But the end pieces that I had done, which didn't need washing because obviously they're don't have any grit in them or anything, they were perfect. So basically just going to do exactly the same thing again, but I'm not going to save the ends. You remember me saying when we were pulling these out that some of these had gone to flower? Well, this is what happens. You get like a stiff core running all the way through, which would become like the neck of a garlic, you know, when you pick the garlic scapes. But for a leek, it's just completely pointless. It renders the whole thing just tough and basically inedible. So like this, where you've got the flower, although it feels really soft at this top end and you think, oh, well, that would be all right, actually lower down, it's not okay. It's just like an absolutely rock solid core full of pith. So any of the ones that have got flowers, I'm just going to be throwing straight back into the compost. The circle of life continues. So they really make me cry, so I'm handing over to Mum. Because, ow. Okay, we're past the crying bit now. I'm just going to put them straight in the bag. A lot of things that we freeze, we lay out on a flat sheet first so that they are all individual, but these are completely dry and they're not going to get stuck together, so I'm just going to freeze them directly in the bag. Perfect, so yeah, perfect, lovely. So we are also doing some beans for freezing, and we haven't been enormously lucky with these before, but actually when I was complaining about that earlier in one of the other vlogs, somebody said to me, Yeah, they're never going to come out perfect, but if you can get them so that they're good enough to have in a stew and stuff over the winter, surely that's worth it rather than letting them go to waste. And yeah, that was a bit of a realization for me, because it's absolutely true. So we are blanching these for 2 minutes, just straight into hot boiling water, and then found the key to having them the best they can be is to whip them straight out of the boiling water and put them into ice so they cool down really, really fast, and then dry them off as best you can before you freeze them. And although, no, they're not as perfect and wonderful as fresh green beans straight off the plant, they're pretty good, really. They are pretty good, and it's definitely worth doing. So we are stocking up. And back to the here and now. Onto the Borlotti beans. You've seen me over the last couple of weeks pick quite a lot of these. They're all dry, they're all rattly. We've got a week of rain coming up, so any that aren't dry, I do just want to take off, because if they're kind of semi-dry and we get a soggy week or so, they're probably just going to rot out in the shells, and that would be a real shame, because these are looking fantastic. You can see there's not a great deal left on the plants, and the plants themselves are finished. They've run their course and they've lost their leaves. So I'm just going to take the last of these beauties off. It has been such a wonderful year for beans. It really has been phenomenal. Been phenomenal. Oh dear. Oh dear. So some of them are not entirely dry. There's a couple of fresh ones on here, but in the soup we had for lunch today, we ate the fresh beans and they're really lovely. So I'm just going to take, there's only about 5 or 6 pods on here which aren't dry. So I'm just going to take them off, and we will probably just eat them for dinner tonight rather than letting them dry. So yum. And then that, chaps, is going to be the end of the 2021 Borlotti beans. What a fantastic year for them. Really, look at the colour of that though. Oh, they're so beautiful. So beautiful. Well, it's actually turned out to be a glorious evening. The sun's come out and it's gorgeous. I've actually just been sowing some lettuces and some more mustard greens, because the dragon's tongue wave mustard that we've grown has started to bolt, but it is so delicious. I'm hoping to get another go at that, and also I've got a green wave, so 2 different mustards. I'm really sorry about the aeroplanes. It's one of those days today. I'm really sorry. I hope you can hear what I'm saying. And the wind now. Oh, and an ice cream van. Okay, so what I was going to say is the last thing I'm going to do just before we head home is I'm going to feed the Brussels sprouts, because they look like they need it. And we were making Christmas plans yesterday. I know, a bit early. It's because my sister mentioned Christmas, because I said it was my niece's birthday last week. When we went out for lunch on Friday, Johanna brought up the fact that Christmas was looming. So Christmas has been on the mind, and so Brussels sprouts obviously, and I think I'm going to give them a feed, because last year we had, don't know if you remember them, we literally had pea-sized Brussels sprouts. It's very sad. They were delicious, but they were pea-sized, and not enough of them for the pea-sizedness to not be a problem. So anyway, Brussels sprouts are high on my agenda, and I'm going to give them a feed, and I'm going to use, Shropshire seaweed. And actually, if anybody's interested in getting hold of some Shropshire seaweed, there is 10% off at the moment. If you click the link under here, I'll put all the details at the bottom. In fact, I'll probably just talk about the details of getting 10% off when I get home and have a glass of wine. But basically, it's fantastic stuff. And yeah, so Shropshire Seaweed are offering 10% off, which is quite exciting. So anyway, I'm going to feed the Brussels sprouts and try not to think about Christmas. Woo! Cracking open a new bottle this afternoon. Very exciting. Lucky old Brussels. Okay, this video is absolutely spiralling out of control at the moment. It's getting ludicrously long. I try and keep them all to under 45 minutes because for a video that comes out every week, that's quite long. So there's no time for the customary chat and a glass of wine on the end of this one, so I'm going to ramble away while I do the feeding of the Brussels sprouts. So the code for the Shropshire Seaweed is just plot 37. If you put that in when you're buying it, you get 10% off, which is marvellous. They currently only supply the UK, but they're trying to get into Australia and America, I believe. So watch this space. Oh, hello, look at these. I've got melons. Woo! It's a bit late now, chaps. It's a bit late now. Sorry. Yeah. Let me know whether you think the timestamp thing works and whether you think it might be useful. I've said before that I'm trying to make the episodes searchable, so it's quite tricky doing things in a vlog style. I mean, I'm not going to change doing it in a vlog style because that's what I enjoy doing, but it's quite difficult for people to be able to find the information that they want and not have to just sit through the whole thing. So this timestamps is kind of an experiment. So let me know if you think that's a good idea or whether it's useful. I hope you enjoyed a little tiny peek around Chelsea. It was not easy to film. I'm slowly getting better at the sort of vlogging on the move thing, but there it was just so loud and so many people. I found that a bit tricky, but you know, these things, we get better at them as we go, don't we? Try and be more comprehensive with my coverage next year. So this is the first week of autumn, and as you can see with the Borlotti beans and things, it's really starting to feel that way up here. I hope you all have a fantastic week ahead of you. I can't really cheers you with my watering can, doesn't have quite the same effect, but still. Don't forget the coupon code for Shropshire Seaweed, and I will see you next week. Same time, same place. Okay, job done. Let's go home. Weer heen.